Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erica. Welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be talking about Tahiti and Moorea and David's and my trip there earlier this year. We went in January of 2023. I feel like I tried to do a lot of research going into our trip there, and it's definitely not nearly as common of a trip as like a lot of other vacations, so it was a little bit harder to find information on, and especially like finding people making videos about it. So I wrote everything down because I thought it would be helpful for people who in the future are looking at traveling there, because I watched a lot of videos like trying to figure out whether I thought it was worth it or not. I feel like it's not the most popular vacation spot. Bora Bora, which is part of French Polynesia, is probably the most common place to go and the most popular. It's right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, so it's kind of a trek to get to. The reason why we booked this trip is David's birthday is in January, and so we really wanted to take a fun vacation over his birthday because it also falls on whatever, I think it's President's Day. I don't know which long weekend it is in January. And we were looking online, just like trying to find tropical places because we both like warmer weather, like beach vacations and stuff. We were just looking on Google Flights, and Tahiti kept popping up as one of the faster and more affordable options of warm places to go to, because most other places that you could go that were like really warm that we had never been to had layovers, which made the flights like over 10-11 hours at least. So this was one of the only places with a direct flight. I think when we first started looking, prices were around like $600 or $700 for the round trip flight, which I feel like is not terrible for going like pretty far. I know people will pay that to travel across the US. When we had to pick like flights that actually made the most sense, I think we paid a little bit more than that, but we were able to fly out of SFO directly to Tahiti. Tahiti is the major island of French Polynesia. It is where all the flights come into. It's a port city, a port island, like everything comes in and out through there. And a lot of people just land there and directly get on another flight and go to one of the other islands. We did not. We ended up spending 4 nights in Tahiti. I definitely regret this. We definitely should not have done that, but Tahiti is a lot cheaper than the rest of the other islands. I tried to do research, but I was also like, it's an island, of course it's gonna be gorgeous. It'll be okay, we'll find stuff to do. But we definitely did not need 4 days in Tahiti. I had read blogs and stuff that said similar things, but some people do just spend like their whole vacation there, but most people who do like go all the way out there are like, no, you should go to the other islands. So we stayed in the main city, which I'm never sure how to pronounce this. It's like Pepati. We stayed at the Hilton there. It was a really nice hotel. It was beautiful. It had some really great restaurants. The food overall in Tahiti is just not great. I wasn't really blown away with any place that we went, which I guess kind of makes sense when you think about islands are so isolated. It's hard for them to get food. Everything is at so much of a higher price for them to get. It's not necessarily a place for foodies if that's what you like to travel and do. There were, I think, like 3 or 4 different restaurants at the Hilton, but we did eat like in town and stuff because I wanted to experience more local places, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it was worth it. One issue that I had a lot on this trip is Google Maps and Yelp and everything just doesn't work great over there. Service isn't great, and a lot of things are like inaccurate on Google Maps, so that was kind of frustrating when we'd have an idea or a plan to go do something and then something wasn't there or things were closed. I would say this is like one of the hardest places that I've traveled to like plan and do a bunch of research on. I do think that this vacation would probably be best if you like rely on people at the hotel, and eventually we did end up going to the concierge on both islands, and like they helped us plan a lot of stuff. I normally don't like doing like organized activities. I like kind of just doing it myself, but I definitely think this vacation you would benefit if you're talking to someone who like can call around and make reservations for you and actually knows the good places to go. We did have a car when we were here, and it was nice because we were able to explore some of the island. We did go to some black sand beaches, and that was probably the best thing on Tahiti that we did. There was some good like boogie board and body surfing and surfing spots. We did buy some like really cheap boogie boards that snapped within like 5 minutes of use. And then we also did take a surf lesson. David does know how to surf. I had taken a surf lesson earlier in the year or actually like a month earlier, when I was in Maui with one of my good friends, because I had just recently been in Maui, which I love Maui. Being on like this other island, I definitely had I think I was comparing a lot to Maui, and Maui is set up for tourists. It is set up to make your life like so easy. It's paradise. And definitely when we were first on Tahiti, that is more of a port city and a little bit less beautiful than a lot of other islands in French Polynesia. It was a disappointment to me for like how far we traveled and how much more expensive it is to get out there. I did not enjoy my surfing lesson in Tahiti versus my surfing lesson in Maui. I think it's all probably just based on like personal experience. Maui is like really, the surfing lesson that we did was probably literally, I mean, anybody could do it. You can stand up, but it feels good when you stand up and like you can do it. They have much longer surfboards. Like, it was just made for you to succeed. And I felt like in Tahiti, it was kind of a mess. This beach that we were doing these surfing lessons on, there were so many people. The board was definitely not a complete newbie board like it was in Maui. And so it was just harder, and I got frustrated and like discouraged because I was thinking like, oh my god, I can surf now when I was in Maui, and I really can't. So I figured that out. When David and I first got to Tahiti, we did not even want to do like a surfing lesson since David can surf, but I was looking on Google. I kept trying to find places for us to rent surfboards, and I couldn't find any place. Like, anytime it would take us to someplace, it didn't exist. So that was really frustrating. One thing that I did really want to see in Tahiti was the biggest wave in the world is there, and a ton of really cool surfing competitions and stuff. And normally it is only active in the summer months. We were there in the winter. Me being stubborn, I was like, no, it's a wave, like it's gonna be there. But we drove all the way out there. In my head, I was thinking that there'll still be some of a wave. It might not be as big as it normally is, but it will still be active, or like, you know, kind of a wave. But we went out there and we found some locals who had a boat, and we were like, can you take us out to the wave? And they're like, there's no wave right now. And we were like, well, can we just go see? And they boated us out there. We literally got out there, and I can insert footage. It was so still. It was so crazy. The videos and the footage that I've seen online of how big this wave can get, the fact that it was just nothing, it was just like still water. So even though I was disappointed that we didn't get to see the actual wave, it was cool to go out there. And these locals were super nice because he actually also owned a pearl farm. And so he took us to his pearl farm, which was this floating house, I guess, over a bunch of pearls, and it was in the middle of the ocean. We got to swim around there, and he let us like dive off of his little floating house. Yeah, it was cool to get to talk to them and to do that. Another thing I was disappointed about our hotel is it is right on the water, and I don't know if it was just because of when we were there, but there was no beach access, and so that was something I was disappointed about. There is a really cool pool, but I feel like you can go swim in a pool wherever, and I would rather be at the beach. So that was probably just me not doing enough research and just assuming that there would be a beach or like something, since it's right on the water. So after 4 nights there, we took a ferry to Moorea. I think the ferry is like between 30 minutes to an hour. I got a little bit motion sick on the way, so I would say that if you do get motion sick, take some precautions, because I'm not like normally that prone to motion sickness, but I did not feel great on the ferry ride over. So here we also stayed at the Hilton, and we stayed in an overwater bungalow, which was definitely expensive, but it was really cool, and it was like a once in a lifetime experience. It was a really cool room. We got views through our living room floor that had like a glass little peephole thing, so you could look down and see fish swimming underneath you. And we had lounge chairs on our deck and a little platform to get right into the water. Here, you're not able to jump into the water. There's a ton of coral underneath you, and it's also pretty shallow. So that was something that I had different expectations of, because I think in Bora Bora, if you've seen people stay at the Hilton there, you're able to jump off your dock. It is still beautiful. It's very clear water. You can see tons of fish, so much snorkeling, but you can't jump off. And I did get cut up from coral. Like, you have to be really careful. Even though both of the hotels that we stayed at were Hilton, definitely the Moorea one was a lot bougier, and I felt like they really took care of us there. It did just feel like a little bit more of an experience staying there. We took advantage of the concierge here. We kind of learned from Tahiti. We scheduled 2 excursions with them, and we had like 1 day where we did our own thing. And so the excursions that we did were ATVing, which also included this, I'm pretty sure it was rum tasting. It was some type of alcohol tasting. But we also got to see this local fruit stand and got introduced to this healing local fruit, which was really cool. I forget what it was called, but they let us drink it, and it is this drink that supposedly can cure diabetes, cancer, like a bunch of stuff. It smells terrible. It is the grossest. It's like blue cheese and vomit mixed together. It tastes and smells so bad. It's very hard to get down, but we all did get to try it. It was cool to learn about that and try some other local fruit that was yummier. We ATV'd around the island, got to see some really pretty views. There's some gorgeous mountains and trees on the island. And it was also fun to be in these groups. It was kind of nice to meet other people on their trip and like talk to them about where they've been and you know, what they were there for. The other activity that we did through the hotel was jet skis, which this one was probably our favorite because we got to jet ski around probably half of the island. You got amazing views of the island. The island is pretty small, and so you're able to see a lot. We also were able to see sharks and stingrays, and we're able to like touch them and get really close to them. So that was really cool. It's definitely a once in a lifetime experience with that one. So I would definitely recommend doing those. They were both pretty pricey, but I do think that it was worth it just to pay for them and do it versus me trying to be stubborn and try to like come up with all these activities by myself, because I couldn't have come up with that by myself. The other day that we were there, we rented a scooter, which they're pretty easy to rent and not too expensive. We rode around the island ourselves. We did a hike, went to a few beaches. Moorea's food was not any better than Tahiti's. We did eat at the hotel at the Hilton 2 or 3 nights, and you know, the Hilton food was good. The food that we got outside of our hotel, it was pretty good. I think we had adjusted our expectations. If we were to ever do this vacation again, I would definitely want to go to Bora Bora or do some more research, and there are tons of islands in French Polynesia, and so I think there's some other cool places to go to. Moorea is like the sister island to Bora Bora, where it is very similar, I've heard, but cheaper, and it's also closer to Tahiti, where we were just able to take the ferry. Bora Bora, I think you have to take like another mini flight, and so that's like expensive and a little bit more time. Moorea is definitely a place that I would recommend traveling to. It is all protected by a reef, and so there are no big waves. It's very clear water, warm water, great for snorkeling. Tahiti does have waves and stuff. I prefer like waves, and I like hanging out in the ocean and body surfing and stuff, so that was something that I would say I liked more about Tahiti. But other than that, I would say just going to the island of Tahiti, I would probably skip that over, maybe spend a day. Overall, it was a really good trip. I definitely think I went into it with some really high expectations that were hard to meet. I'm not sure that I would put this super high on my list of recommended places to go. I've definitely been to other places that I enjoyed more, but it was still a really cool experience, and I'm really grateful that we got to do it. Let me know if you guys have any more questions. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.